Merry Christmas, everybody. It's Christmas Eve. I love Christmas Eve. When I was a kid, I loved Christmas Eve because I always was expecting company. I just knew somebody was going to visit that night, if you know what I mean, and I had a hard time sleeping. As I grew up, I began to love Christmas Eve for a different reason. There were things that we did as a family, things we worked on, Melinda and I, on Christmas Eve to prepare for the next morning for the kids. We had traditions that we made. Who could find baby Jesus because he was sitting somewhere, and just things that we did that were so much fun together. But one thing was always a must. We did communion together and we read the Christmas story. Melinda made it a habit of reading to the kids every night anyway, but on Christmas Eve, it was the Christmas story. I want to read to you the Christmas story that was read so many times in my home on Christmas Eve. Luke 2, 1 through 7. In those days, a decree went out from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be registered. This was the first registration when Quirinius was governor of Syria, and all went to be registered, each to his own town. And Joseph also went up from Galilee, from the town of Nazareth to Judea, to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David, to be registered with his wife, his betrothed, who was with child. And while they were there, the time came for her to give birth. And she gave birth to her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger, because there was no place for them in the inn. That's Luke 2, 1 through 7. You know, tonight, people who don't usually attend church, all over the world, people will hear that story. People will hear it read. Maybe they'll tune into a Christmas special and they'll hear it read. Maybe they'll watch it on TV. Maybe even in homes, people will read this story. Many people will attend maybe a Christmas Eve communion service. And people, some that have never heard that story will hear it. Maybe some who've heard it many times. And the interesting thing is that we will once again be reminded that our King came in the most unexpected way. There was no fanfare, there was no parade, there was no big announcement except for the small show that was put on in a field to a few shepherds who got to hear an amazing message and who were invited in to see the new king. Other than that, the town that we sing about, Bethlehem, slept because it was just any other night. One of my favorite lines of any song that we sing at Christmas is in a little town of Bethlehem, that in that deep and quiet sleep, when the town did not know what was going on. And the line says, the hopes and fears of all the years were met in that town that night. Man, we sing that, we look back and we know what that line means. That my hopes and fears, that the answer for all my prayers, everything born, that he came in such a humble way, our King, that night. Luke 2, 10 through 11 goes on to say that the angels speaking to the shepherds the angel said to him, "Fear not, for behold, I bring you good news of great joy that will be for all the people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, who is Christ the Lord. Unto you is born this day." You notice that the angels said to the shepherds that this was for them. I love that in Isaiah says, "For unto us a child is born, to us a son is given." But then the angels that day made it very personal. They said, "For unto you is born." There's this difference. The promise of Isaiah was that a Savior would come. The promise of Isaiah was that a child would be given to save his people from their sins. But then it becomes from unto us, which is a beautiful promise that the shepherds hear the greater truth, unto you. You see, us is a plurality. Yes, he was born for the whole world, but there's something about the unto us. Jesus saved me from my sin, and that's personal. Jesus saved me. Unto you is born. I also love that the promise here is that his rule would increase. And I've seen that in my own life, that his rule has increased. Melinda and I reminisce about the first Christmas Eve we had together. We got married in November, and so our first Christmas together, we were establishing new traditions. And I think back now, 35 years, this will be our 35th Christmas together, and I think of how much the rule and reign of Jesus has increased in our life, and just how precious it is, how we've come to know and love him in a much deeper way, how we've come to know and love each other in a much deeper way, how we appreciate what Christ is in us, who Christ is in us, and what he has taught us over these years. His rule, his peace has increased in drastic ways in our life, because it's not just unto us, it's unto me, for unto you, me is born. Because I believe until it becomes personal, it truly doesn't become real. Listen to that again. Until it becomes personal to you, it truly does not become real. Christ was born unto us. Christ has been born in me. This is the reality of Christ in me, that it became truly real to me when I began to know him for myself. Not just what people said about him, but when I came to know Christ for myself. This is the magic of Christmas to me, that this baby born to save the world, the one that was God, that is God, that always will be God, that this one that came for us to show us the love of the Father, that this baby became a king. This baby was a king. And though most of the world didn't see it, it says in John 1:10-13, he was in the world, and the world was made through him. He came to the world he made, yet the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own people did not receive him. But to all, here's the good news, but to all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become the children of God, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. This is not man's doing. I can't save myself. I couldn't, but Christ did. This is God's doing. It is the will of the Lord to save me. And my belief in him has opened the door for me to receive the Father's love and to become a child of God. A Savior was born to save me. That's the personal part of it. I love to look at the collective salvation. I also love to look at he loved me enough to come. But I want to invite you, as we worship Christ our King, as we celebrate the love of the Father, don't miss this opportunity to be reconciled to him. Take this moment to thank him for what he's done for you. Take this moment to remember that what the angel said was there was peace on earth toward men with whom he was pleased to dwell. The Lord loves you so much. He is not angry with you. He has reconciled you by the blood of his cross. He loves you. Merry Christmas to you.